Hey there, welcome to this episode of the Skiff Meetings podcast, the podcast for curious event professionals embracing the future of business events. My name is Miguel Neves, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Skiff Meetings. And in this episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with Lance Trebesch, the CEO of Eventgroove. And our topic of interest today is true partnership. We cover a lot of ground, including the palpable energy of events. We talk about the foundational layer of great events, the things that need to happen, and also the creative layer, which is what makes great events truly memorable. We talk about clear and fair pricing, something that Lance really believes in, and it forms the basis of what Lance calls a true partnership. We talk about how Lance and his team love to help organizations start to run events digitally. And we talked about how Lance thinks that we've crossed the Rubicon on remote work, but that events are magical in the way that they bring people together, and he doesn't see that changing anytime soon. I hope you enjoy listening to this conversation, and I invite you to check out the other episodes of the Skiff Meetings podcast. You can find them on our website or by subscribing through your favorite podcast service. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Skiff Meetings podcast. Today, I am delighted to have Lance Trebesch here, CEO of Eventgroove. Lance, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Miguel. I'm looking forward to it.
So, Lance, we met only recently, I think, at IMEX America. A common acquaintance introduced us, and I learned about your company, Eventgroove, which I have to admit I was not familiar with. So, I'd love to start there, but take us through your kind of journey and what I usually ask our guests, and hopefully you'll also have an interesting insight into that. Is the moment where you kind of understood or figured out the events industry?
Okay. So I'll give a little bit of background on the company and then answer that. So the company was founded in 97. So we call ourselves a 25-year-old startup, or 28, 26 now, by my fellow co-owner and the founder of the company, Mike Yinger. So Mike was a top IBM global software architect, always on the road. And his friend who ran the local community playhouse asked him over beers, Mike, printing tickets is really difficult in terms of the variable data, the serial numbers, et cetera. Can you make software to make it less difficult? So the entrepreneurial light went off for Mike to get off the road. He created a desktop downloadable ticket printing software. People loved it. They asked him to start stubbing paper, which he did in his garage, anything to get off the road. And then finally people said, Mike, just do it all for me. And so that became really what, Eventgroove, print on demand is what we call that. And these are any product, any event product that you need to, do all your offline marketing for an event, like postcard mailers, but then all of the products you need at the event, signage, banners, wristbands, et cetera.
Yeah. And that used to be called ticketprinting.com. Is that the original?
That was the original brand. Yeah. And a very literal Google, specific brand domain. I came on board in 2007 as CEO and co-owner. Mike wanted to get back to programming. And we built out that part of the platform to a full e-commerce platform. So the way to look at that is look at us as kind of Shopify plus Etsy for exclusively focused on event products and merchandise. Mm-hmm. So we enable event management companies, marketing companies, event customers to set up their own e-commerce storefronts, to design products to go in those storefronts. And then, of course, to sell those products or to use them as, kind of their internal corporate ordering sites. Okay. And I'm getting to your answer. But then we launched in 2014 Eventgroove Events. And Eventgroove Events, because we had so many different customers, probably 45,000 per year, across every type of segment, from nonprofits to entertainment to corporate, et cetera. We came out with a general offering that would kind of be general offering, self-serve, set up your event online, sell tickets online. as we started talking to our larger customers who run complex, events programs, with the light bulb that came off for me in terms of really understanding, events and understanding how large organizations and companies put on events, it happened in that moment because what they needed was scale and what they needed was standardization, across their distributed enterprise and company. And so that's the moment where I think in those conversations with our customers, I truly, in an almost visceral way, grasped, the events industry.
But you had experience with the events industry before that?
I did not. So before that, this is my fourth startup I've been part of. So I was part of early teams of three tech startups in the Bay Area.
Okay. And did you use events in those tech startups in the growth process and the field marketing, anything like that?
Yes. It was very much in the days of, going to CES, for example, and setting up, classic field marketing, set up a booth, doing a big PR launch of either A, the company, or B, your next version of your software. So it was very much what I would, in those days, call kind of standard field marketing, and very conference reliant.
Okay. Interesting. So yeah, just to go back to Eventgroove, so it's quite an interesting product. I mean, I've only learned about it recently, but you have the event side, so you have that kind of registration and kind of management side. You have the fundraising, and then you have this e-commerce. And I want you to make sure you explain the difference between those two, because I think the e-commerce side is really interesting in the way that you have all these what I would call promotional products, right? And or kind of printing options and flyers and that kind of thing. And you make it very easy, very sort of hands, kind of DIY. You upload a logo and you can go and print all these different things and make all these products. And what about the fundraising? What's specific about fundraising? Is that sort of awards gala kind of focused? What is that exactly?
Yeah, so the fundraising platform is online fundraising, but usually in conjunction with, in-person events. So we have five different fundraiser types. Number one are auctions. Number two are raffles, sweepstakes, crowdfunding, donation pages, and then one kind of horizontal, if you will, that goes across those is peer-to-peer fundraising, which means, peer-to-peer, of course, means, competitive team fundraising. Hey, let's put a team together and let's see who can, sell the most raffles tickets. So where we market that is, of course, number one is our nonprofit segment, because they're doing that all the time. And it really gives them both, because we can do it purely online or in conjunction with events. It really digitizes in many ways their previous processes of fundraising. Number two is we're also getting traction around corporate social responsibility, divisions within companies who want to raise money for good causes and sometimes want to put those together in conjunction with an event. And so that gives them the online ability to raise that money and do it in a fun way.
Yeah, interesting. So it's a very different approach to I think most of the technology companies that we normally cover. So I think it's quite interesting to understand that. I want to go back to sort of your journey and your career a little bit, and I want to see. Obviously, I think this is always a fun question that I ask some of our guests, which is, how do you explain to your family and friends what you do? People that are outside the industry.
Yeah, great question. So, I live in Montana, and my extended family are ranchers, and ranchers are very technical. They use software, et cetera, but they have no idea what I do. And so the way I explain it is, I'm co-owner, I'm CEO of this company. Title's not important, but what I sometimes use as a metaphor, really, it's not even a metaphor, it's just an actual thing, is I'll say I'm the chief energizing officer of the company. And in my view, a person in my position needs to enter, everything is accomplished in teams. I don't accomplish things on my own. No one in our company accomplishes things completely on their own. So my job is to energize, my teams around vision and direction, help them with prioritization, get the resources, in some respects, the energy for them to accomplish their goals, and also build a culture that's an energizing, culture that's positive and that is always focused on growth. And then most of all, is focused on really, delighting our customers. So that's the way, that kind of that theme of energizing. That's the way I describe it to friends and family.
And that sort of being involved in the events industry, does that make that unique in your mind, or do you think that all those things would apply, if you were working software for any other industry?
I think all of those things apply for any software startup and company. I think with the events industry specifically, I'll give you a customer example. So one of our customers is the Western Conservation Expo. They do it's a expo in Salt Lake every February, 42,000 people. 3 nights of pretty complicated banquets, galas, all sorts of events and tracks, along with it, 700 exhibitors. Um, the what I would when I describe that, of course, to friends and family, there is an energy kind of component to that. And that's where frankly, I get a lot of energy is when I actually attend my customer events and I see, just the palpable energy. People love to be together. They love to be going to things they're passionate about. And that definitely fits into kind of this, energizing theme, if you will.
Great. Yeah, couldn't agree more. So, I want to talk a little bit about events and the way you look at events and what in your mind are the kind of key ingredients to make events really work. Now, I'm sure they would involve your tools and your software, but I think from a planner perspective, what do you think are the things that really make events stand out and become really memorable for those participating?
Yeah, I look at this as, in my experience, there's really kind of, two layers to fantastic events. There's a foundational layer that goes around goals, and it's kind of a tired framework, but nonetheless it works around goals, people, technology, and processes. And that foundational layer is the goals part of that, of course, is for the whole event. But it really, if you don't have goals, you really just don't have a foundation of what you were trying to achieve. Number two is, of course, with people, it's an interesting, at least from what I've observed and been a part of, it's an interesting mix, diverse mix of generalists and specialists. And it's also a diverse mix of temperaments, from the detail-oriented person who's so invaluable to the, visionary kind of broad strokes person who really kind of takes the strategic themes of that event to a different level. And then, with a lot of events, of course, it's really not, it's just good process and good process execution, which is, sounds boring, but boy, if you don't do it, it really causes a lot of pain. And then the final part of that, those four cornerstones of that foundational layer, is the technology. And does the technology enable you to scale? Does it give a great attendee experience? Does it, and then of course, is it cost effective, right? Now I've talked about the foundational layer. On top of that, though, is what I call the creative layer. And the creative layer is bespoke. I mean, and it's really kind of this broad palette of how do you create a unique event? And even if it's the same event every year, how are you differentiating the event? and what are the variety of things, experiments even, that you can add in that creative layer to make it memorable. And so many events are annual, and I think the ones that are most memorable are the ones that have really focus on that creative layer, and not trying to do the exact same things. The same things, of course, happen because there might be a dinner, right, as part of the event. There might be a conference, but I think that creative layer is really important to kind of marry to the foundational layer.
I like that. That's a very clear separation there, and I think it kind of, like you say, having the right people in the right roles makes a big difference there. So I know that we spoke recently about this kind of idea of saturation on digital channels, right? I think digital, online, you talked about online auctions and fundraising. I think it just seems to be the go-to place where people do business. But I think you said you were seeing a saturation there and a turn towards events and other things as well. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I'll use a couple of the customer examples. So one of our largest customers is one of the largest national nonprofits in the country. They run over 6,000 events on our platform, and they're very much kind of an in person organization. Of course, COVID hit, and we immediately on the platform enabled virtual events. They really started using the online fundraising platform, and so all of that helped them really survive, and even in some respects kind of catalyze more of this kind of what you would call digitization of their company and their processes, their core processes and operations. But the saturation, we all feel it. This is nothing original here. Saturation of looking at screens really cannot ever be a substitute for the in-person experience. And that in-person experience is not only the community building of, let's say, your association, your members, if you're a nonprofit, kind of your donors and your passionate followers, but it's also of course, with corporations, and with customer retention, customer relations, as well as driving new customer acquisition through lead gen. And so what we are seeing, at least within our platform, is a fundamental return to in-person events that are leveraging technology, but not overly relying on it. The moment of magic, of course, is the event itself.
Yep, that's what I think a lot of listeners will be focused on, is that moment of magic, and I think it's that moment that matters in many ways, right? We can do a lot of the things online, but then when we come together in person, when we gather, I think it is that moment that does matter. So I think we've understood a little bit about Eventgroove, which I think is an interesting structure. One thing that stands out from what I see on your site and from the things that I've read is this idea of true partner pricing. I think a lot of companies in the industry, and I won't name any, but do try to have very rigid contracts in place, very long-term contracts, and kind of the pricing of event technology has been challenging for many planners over the years. You've gone for a very transparent, and from what I can tell, a very direct approach of you charge people when they're making money, when they're getting registrations, and you keep the contracts very short and kind of directly aligned to the events. Explain a little bit about how it works first, but then I want to talk a little bit about the thinking behind it and why you think it works. So I mean, why it works in terms of the technical side of what you do, but then why you think it works, the psychology behind it.
Yeah, well, I would, if you don't mind, Miguel, I'll start with the thinking behind it. So as you may recall, when Salesforce launched, they had the red circle slash that said software in the middle. Because basically in the world of, on-premise software, on-premise licensing, Salesforce really pioneered, the software cloud. So if you think of that, our circle slash, if you will, around event platforms is, in that circle of the red with the slash would be business as usual. And, we're really passionate about this, being transparent, being upfront, and really being completely aligned with our customers and partners. And we do it in the following way. Number one, as you mentioned, we have a service fee model, 2% of the registration or ticket value plus 50 cents, capped at $9.90. So what we like about that is that we only make money when our customers are making money. Events can be seasonal, they can be episodic, and we don't believe we deserve money if we're not, executing an event for, helping our customers execute the event on the platform. So that's really, really important. Secondly is, there's, in current kind of event platform contracts, there's all sorts of add-ons. There's all sorts of things to watch out for. So in our, ethos, number one is it's free use of the platform. So 99% of our customers, have the attendee pay that service fee. They have free use of the platform. There are no setup upfront charges ever. There are no ongoing charges, as in subscription charges. We do not have anything, in terms of quote unquote advanced feature pricing, like, hey, get Eventgroove Pro, pay more. Everyone from the smallest event organizer to, the largest company doing thousands of events has full access to the entire platform. We also do free CRM integration because that's extremely important. That's why you're having the event, right? And so that's the second part of it. The third part of it is, in terms of our contracts, we don't even require a contract. Some customers want a contract, but within those contracts, we have a clause for them that they can terminate for convenience. What that does for me and our company, that creates a value and an organizing principle within our company that we have to earn our customers' business every single day. We have to earn it. We have to be good every day, really good. And that's really important for us. The last one, which at IMEX America, I really got a lot of positive feedback on, is that we enable a full private label, event site for all of our customers, on which they can run thousands of events. They can run one event. It doesn't matter. So what they like about it is it's their brand, front and center, in the middle, wherever you want. It's their brand through and through. And if you're running, events programs, and there are a wide variety of, of types of events. So let's say you have internal meetings, sales incentive, et cetera. And then let's say you have external customer meetings. You may have one big conference. What that enables that customer to do is run all of their events on their site, what we call their site, which is full private label. And so where we are, focusing and where we're evolving is one event platform that really does it all for that type of customer, which is what we call enterprise event management for distributed event operations.
And so I think it's safe to say your customers tend to be in the nonprofit sector and then have multiple events, multiple chapters, different kind of activities going on in different parts of the world or different parts of the country.
Well, yeah, our segments are nonprofits. Then the next segment is corporate, sports and rec, education, as well as entertainment. And so most people, what we have found at least is, and we're fine with this, a one-off event. That's okay. Go to Eventgroove events, set it up and do it. But what we find is generally, whether you're an event planner, whether you're, a company, events manager, you're having a lot of different events. So rather than silo your events across one or two or three platform, I mean, excuse me, two or three or more platforms, what we pitch is put them all on your site. It really becomes your site. You own the data. We'll integrate it to your CRM. And then you can really scale all types of events. And the great thing about it, of course, you're not paying for it every month. You're not running events, you're not paying for anything. And then, of course, all that setup of that, your customer side, all the configuration, all of that is for free.
Yeah, and I'd imagine if you've done the promotional product side with the logos, if the logo is still the same, you can reuse all that. That's sort of, you can use that across
That's
different
right.
events. Yeah.
In
So
addition, just, free events are free. We don't make money on our customers' free events
without any limit of size?
without any limited size.
Okay. So that's different to the Eventbrite strategy, which is now limiting at 25, I believe. So want to go back to the pricing model. I mean, you must have people try to convince you to have contracts and change that and kind of convince you that you're leaving money on the table, right?
Yeah. So my guiding light on this really is the company Costco, and you're probably familiar with Costco. They're everywhere. So of course, Jim Sinegal is the founder of the company, CEO, now retired. He was asked in almost every analyst meeting to why don't you, on Wall Street, of course, why don't you raise your prices? Because of course Costco only has a 14% markup. And he said, if we raise our prices, that breaks my trust with my customers, and I'll never do it. And and in those conversations, from what I have heard, I mean, this is all public knowledge, right? They were asking for like a once you raise it 2 points, like 16%. And he just said, no, we'll never do it. It's never going to happen. And that's just, the way we're building this. We want to build something different. We don't want to do business as usual. We think, life is hard enough and events are hard enough that why spend, a month to 2 months negotiating, a lock-in long-term contract. We want to get our customers going, and that energizes us. And also, frankly, the benefit for us is our sales cycles are compressed, meaning they're quicker, because either a customer wants to go with us or not. But the whole negotiation, contracting, all of that crap, we just don't need to do. They know exactly what they're going to get, and it's a lot.
Yeah. Really interesting. And do you find that I don't know if you have any figures to compare with other companies, but do you find that you're sort of, the amount of time that an average customer stays with you is longer because of these kind of policies?
Yeah, we have high customer retention. And so, in general, once, on the e-commerce side, once a customer gets to two purchases, they stay with us for years. On the event side, what we have found, once we get a customer set up on their own site, and they become not only operationally invested in that site, but they have become emotionally invested because it's their brand and it's their control, and they can control, complex event programs, at different layers of the organization. So, I don't know what the industry, standard metrics are, but we definitely keep customers, especially when we get them on their own sites.
What about future thinking for the company? Where are you hoping to head next? It doesn't sound like you're in explosive growth mode, but it sounds like you're steady. What are you seeing ahead?
Yeah. So we're fun, we're a bootstrapped company. This is the first, bootstrap startup I've been a part of. The last three were venture backed. And so there are trade-offs to any approach, whether you're venture backed, whether you're PE backed, or whether you're bootstrapped. The trade-offs for bootstrapping a company are, the positives are you can really build out a long-term strategic direction. And you can do things that, a typical VC would say, well, why are you doing that? You got to stop doing that, including probably, how we price, right? Um, and so, there's great benefits in that. The trade-off, of course, is things you move slower. You have to live off your own cash flow. Nonetheless, I would take, now having done both now, I would definitely take bootstrapping because I think we have built really, our focus has been building the platforms, and the platforms are, we took long-term strategic, focus on building those, and the platforms are solid. And they're able to scale from, of course, the smallest event or to the largest event to the smallest, from the smallest customer to the largest customer. So we have, getting to your, that's a long preface, Miguel, to your question, but we have a lot of surface area for a small company. We have a full-fledged e-commerce platform in 4 markets. We have a full-fledged events platform, same, and then we have fundraising. So for us, our focus right now, and I look 2 to 3 years out tops because it's all about execution. Number one is just making those 3 platforms integrate better and work together better. And so, for instance, we just added a feature where on the registration confirmation page, we integrated an e-commerce, the ability to integrate an e-commerce storefront there to cross-sell and upsell promotional merchandise at the point of registration. So concept being the person, who just had their wallet out can now wear merch to the actual event itself. So integration is a real big, focus for us. I think the other focus for us is more, global expansion. We just launched, multi-language capabilities on the e-commerce platform. First language being Spanish. We're going to continue launching those on the events as well as fundraising. And then finally, we want to make it even easier on all 3 platforms for someone to come in, set up their site entirely on their own, walk through the configuration questions, and then have a full private label, full-fledged events platform of their own. Right now, we can do that in e-commerce, and then we're going to build that out on the events platform. And, one of the segments we're looking at and why we're doing that is, one segment we want to get better, more acquainted with and more, we want to empower more is really the experiential and the event marketing agencies. Because so many of their customers, come to them with an event concept or an event idea or just an event they're doing. They need executional, ideation, executional help. Many of those customers going to those agencies do not have registration platforms in mind. They do not have an event platform in mind. I would love to empower those event marketing agencies to have their own under their brand, and they can offer it to their customers. We could do that today. I would just love it to be even, self-serve.
Are you then going for the SaaS model here, or is this a little bit different?
No, the pricing would be exactly the same. We do rev share with partners like that. So if it's still a service fee model, but then we'll work out a rev share with them. So they don't pay anything up front. They can market it, and then only when their customers, are their customers, I should say, are buying, registering or buying tickets. That's when they, make the money.
But on the events platform, just in general, do you see it going more towards a SaaS model? Because I see that you're very involved in the customer service. That's a big part of also your offering. Do you expect to be sort of more hands-on, or do you think people are looking for something that's sort of more hands-off? I mean,
Okay, yeah, I misunderstood your question. So we are today what you would call a SaaS usage model. And what I mean by that is we're software as a service and a usage model based pricing. We're not SaaS, subscription as a service, right? And we'll never do that. Um, we will, and this is part of kind of our true partner pricing, we will always help people with setting up their events. In fact, last week, we had a small nonprofit, I think it was outside of Philadelphia. They had never done kind of an online event with fundraising. My customer support person spent hour and 15 minutes with that executive director setting up everything. We love that because now we have that customer, again and again and again. So we never charge for customer support, for customer onboarding, or training. That's just part of that's part of our pricing. It's all free.
Are you concerned with the scalability of that? Again, sort of going back to that sort of looking at the business model.
That's a good question. At this point, no, and especially given the models kind of we look at, right, in terms of our planning models. Once we get a customer, trained and familiar with their site, I'll take the example of our largest customer is Ducks Unlimited. They run 6,000 events. They have over 100 regional directors setting up those events for 2,200 chapters. Once we get them trained, they're on, they do a great job on their own. The software is pretty intuitive. Doesn't mean we can't improve it. We can certainly improve it, but it's pretty intuitive. So once we kind of get that level of onboarding and training, that it scales. And it scales, and it helps those organizations to really scale their events.
Yeah, it's interesting because it sounds to me that it's not really, SaaS as you say, but in that sense that you're kind of giving people the keys. They can go and figure stuff out, but then you're helping them enough to get them kind of confident and comfortable, and you're also building that relationship as you're doing that, because then when they want to do something different, they'll kind of reach out to your team and kind of they'll help them figure that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they need, I would really say, and I think our customers would say this, we provide a white glove service all the way to their first set of events. And if they want to if they need more help after that, we're certainly there to help them. There's a lot of, there's some, organizations that are what I would say have not entered the digital world of events. Frankly, we love that because it's a great opportunity for us. There's no question there's more upfront customer support involved with that. But once we get them there, they stay with us because frankly, no other company will do that, especially at the level of pricing that we offer.
Yeah, it's small margins, but it sounds like you're making it work. So congrats on that.
Yeah, thank you. It's a lot of hard work, but it's worth it.
So I want to zoom out a little bit now and talk about kind of bigger picture things. Focusing on the events industry, our audience is mainly on the planning side of the events industry. What do you think the biggest challenges are currently in the events industry?
Yeah, I kind of look towards, especially given the time of year, Miguel, I'm looking towards 2024. And what I'm observing are a couple of things. One is I think it's pretty obvious that the economy is going to slow down. CFOs are talking about it, and when a CFO is talking about it, they're going to go to the other, CXOs, including the CMO, and say, "Okay, what's your budget?" And of course, a component of the budget are events, and where can you either stay flat or where can you cut, or if you want an increase, you better justify it. So I think we're going to be in an environment of a slowing economy. At the same time, there's and it's not or, and people realize that in-person events matter. But I think that's going to be important. I think, all the line items of any particular event are going to have more scrutiny. People are going to find ways to save money because they want to drive a higher event ROI. And that comes down to the tech, and tech event platforms they're using. I even at IMEX America, I started sensing that people wanted value. And Tim O'Reilly, Silicon Valley guru, et cetera, he has this great guiding principle that I've used in all the startups I've been part of is you have to create more value than you capture. And I say that to my team all the time, is that we really need to create more value than we capture. And if we do that, we have long-term customers. So a slowing economy is number one. And so I think the other one that's really important that is in numerous conversations right now is really sustainability, and making people feel good that they're that they're at an in-person event, but that in-person event and that live event has done nearly everything possible to make it sustainable. So the no guilt climate friendly event, right? And so one of the ways that I think you'll see this kind of come to fruition in 2024 is that any event has a number of different vendors, and of course to help you execute that event. I think in those vendor contracts you're going to see more and more event organizers have sustainability sections, and we've been on this train for a long time. So since 2007, we have donated 42% of our net profits to climate and conservation. Number two is every shipment of products from us is entirely carbon neutral. We pay for that. Number three is we take a percentage of our revenue, top line revenue, and we donate it to Stripe's carbon removal program, which literally is removing carbon. Number four is we also make sure all of our web hosting is entirely powered by renewable energy. And then lastly, our production facility is 100% powered by wind energy. So those are, and I feel, I don't mean to boast about that, but I'm really proud of what we're doing there, because there is no event platform that has done more around sustainability, climate, and conservation than us.
That is a bold claim. I'm going to test others to see if they can match, but I'd
Yes.
say you're doing it, everything I know from a technology perspective. So I think that's
Well, it's real money, that we've literally donated real money. So I'm
yeah.
happy to go head to head.
Yeah. What about your vision for the future of the industry and kind of how events are run? Do you see events being very different, let's say in 5 or 10 years time than how they are kind of today?
Even though I'm a tech person and I love tech, and I could, expound on AI, I could expound on AR, VR, all of that, all of those will play a part. But fundamentally, we're a tribal species, and it's going to be those moments of magic and interaction of looking at another human being or in a group of human beings and conversing and talking and collaborating, or being in a moment where you're learning, right? And light bulbs are going off, and that kind of energy. And, as we all have mirror neurons in our frontal cortex. I'm getting really nerdy now, as my kids like to say. Those mirror neurons are really important because that's, kind of who we are as a social species. And technology can perhaps augment that, perhaps enhance that. But I really think events at their core will be what events are today.
Well, thanks. I think that's reassuring for a lot of people in the industry, and I think I tend to agree with your vision. what about attracting the younger generations? Because that's something we've been covering a lot. And for some younger generations, it doesn't feel as an exciting as an industry as it maybe once did. Do you have any thoughts for kind of people entering the industry, how we should attract them, and how they should think about the industry to be successful?
Yeah, I think one thing, if I was trying to attract people to the industry, um, I think this concept of there's no question that we've crossed the Rubicon on remote work. And, people are going to have either hybrid, workplaces, or they're going to have remote workplaces. And I think for the younger generation, as I've, counseled, my son who's now entered the workforce, it is really important that they, be with their fellow coworkers. It's really important to go out and, go to events, even though they quote unquote have the option of working at home. So what I would, do is really leverage the excitement of travel and the excitement of being with people, give them, an organizational framework to really navigate an event well, to, not only navigate, but also have fun, bring other team members to it. And I think that becomes a new, frankly, employee benefit of travel, of going to at least, certain amount of conferences per year and getting them involved. And I'm saying this, getting them into the events industry can also be part of that. But I would really key off on the remote work and helping people understand, it's really fun to be together and it's really fun to execute physical events, right, with real people. And I think that's what I did. The second thing, this is more general career advice, is for people entering the industry, I really think it's important that you become very good at one function when you first start out. Um, and then once you kind of nail that, that function or that particular role and responsibilities, do another one. So you got two under your bag. But then that enables you this pretty solid foundation to really start stretching out and becoming a generalist. And then, it gives you a lot of different optionality in your career.
I like it. Definitely a little bit of a career path, career plan there for people. So thanks for sharing that. So Lance, I want to wrap up by asking you to suggest someone who should be on the podcast. It's always fun to connect with different people, and I enjoyed our conversation so much. But want to connect the dots, and maybe if you suggest someone that you think would be interesting, and what would you ask them if they were on the podcast?
Prior to IMEX America, in fact, a week prior, I didn't plan this, by the way. My wife and I and friends went to the Sphere and saw U2. And the Sphere, of course, as we all recognize, is, I mean, number one, is one of the most viral topics, in the world right now. Number two is it's a venue, it's an event experience. And so it's incredibly exciting. And when I was in there and experiencing it, I was like, wow, humankind can really pull off amazing things. Um, but what I would do, and the guest I would ask to be on your show would be Jim Dolan, of course, CEO of the Sphere, as well as many other things. And I would have him project forward 20 years and give us a vision, right, of the Sphere that's still, relevant. It's not tired. It's even more interesting. And by doing that, it would be interesting to get his thoughts on, where, what I would call outlandish, in a good way, outlandish venues like that can go.
I think it would be fun to have him on the show and ask him those questions. I'm very curious about this. I've not experienced it personally, but I was in Vegas for IMEX America and saw it from the distance, and it definitely seemed nice. And it's always interesting to see that you were very impressed by it, being a kind of an event technology expert. So, Lance, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. And to our listeners, thank you for listening. And I hope you join us again for future episodes of the Skiff Meetings podcast. Thanks again,
Yeah,
Lance.
thanks, Miguel. I really enjoyed it.